I just had an interesting meeting with one of my data scientists. What happened was that he'd made quite a big mistake. We were building a predictive model, and what had happened is that part of building a predictive model is feature engineering, creating features from existing variables. And he'd done something wrong. He'd taken some of the instructions that we'd come together, or some of the instructions that we'd collaborated on, and had just done it incorrectly, which meant that the final model then was incorrect. So he sent me the final model, and he showed me the feature engineering work that he'd done, and something just didn't look right. So I looked at the feature engineering or the features that he'd engineered, and I realized that they didn't look right. So I sort of reverse engineered to see how he got them, because I had his code and he'd made a really big mistake. So I sent him an email saying the model's all wrong, we're now behind schedule, let's have a meeting. Now what I didn't know was, in his mind, he was thinking, oh my God, I made a mistake. What can I do about it? So when we got on the call, he started apologizing. He started saying, sorry, I'm really sorry about, creating the wrong features, especially, the methodology that we'd agreed, he'd not stuck to it accurately and made some mistakes. For me, obviously he'd made some mistake because I saw it. I reverse engineered when I didn't feel that the actual features looked right. But the meeting wasn't really to get him to apologize to me. I wasn't really interested in his apologies. What I was more interested in is what we're going to do next, right? So I sort of said to him, whoa, stop. Because when we had the call, it was a video call. He worked remotely. When we had the video call, he started apologizing, saying, I'm really sorry, I won't happen again. And I was like, whoa, stop. I don't need an apology. Okay, I assume you didn't make the mistake on purpose, so there's no need to apologize. What I'm more interested in is, what have we learned and how do we move forward? Because the deadline was getting close, the client needed their predictive model, and what were we going to do about it? And so I sort of reframed that meeting to saying, look, I'm not here to blame you for anything or assign blame to anything. What I'm more interested in is how do we move forward? So in that meeting, we literally went through how quickly he could redo the feature engineering part, the bits that we could actually salvage and reuse, so therefore it would help us in terms of accelerating some of the tasks, and eventually looking at some of the code he'd done that we could just tweak and keep, so we didn't have to start from scratch. So at the end of the meeting, it was quite a long meeting actually, because we went through quite a lot of detail. At the end of the meeting, we were in a good place. We were in a good place where we had corrected everything, and he knew exactly what to do. And even in the call, he sort of rewrote some of that code as we went through it. And so hopefully now we'll be able to meet the deadline. We're going to cut it a bit tight. I was hoping to have some time to do a lot of testing. We won't have that much time for testing now, but it's fine. We'll get there, and we'll be able to give the client what they want. But the important thing was that when I was speaking to him in that meeting, I was really sort of trying to put across, I guess, what I was trying to put across was that in our line of work, okay, we're going to make mistakes, okay? Numbers, when you work with numbers and you work with sort of machine learning algorithms and you work with code, you're bound to make mistakes, no matter how good you are. The issue is not that you made a mistake, because no one makes a mistake deliberately. I mean, if you do, then obviously that's bad. But most of my data scientists don't make a mistake deliberately. So I wasn't really interested in an apology from them. What I was interested in is A, what they learn, and B, what do we do next, right? So what I wanted to make sure was that he'd learned from the mistake, so that mistake wouldn't happen again, which was clearly he knew that he'd made the mistake, and that's why he was apologizing, because he knew he shouldn't have made the mistake. So he'd done the learning bit. The next bit was, what's our plan of action, right? How do we still make sure we can meet the deadline for the client? And then thirdly, just to get on with it, and that's what we did. And so I think if you are a data leader, one of the things that you should really emphasize to your team is that there will be times when they will make mistakes, and as long as it's not a careless mistake, it's something that could have been avoided, but they will make mistakes, okay? And if they do make mistakes, then what you're not there is to pick them up on that mistake. What you're there is to make sure that they've learned from that mistake, and then they have a way forward. So make sure that if you are managing a team of data analysts or data scientists, that you don't really focus on a blame culture. You focus more on a learning culture, because mistakes will happen, and one of the things that you have to ensure as a data leader is that your team moves forward from those mistakes.